What if I told you that everything happening between America and Iran right now, the threats, the tension, the hatred, none of it started with a war or a nuclear deal or a religious revolution. It started with oil, and one man who made the mistake of thinking his country's oil actually belonged to his country. His name was Mohammad Mosaddegh. He was democratically elected. He was popular. He was on the cover of Time magazine as Person of the Year. And in 1953, the United States of America had him removed from power in a secret coup, arrested in his own home, and replaced with a dictator they could control. What happened next created the Iran we know today. This is Operation Ajax. If this is the first time you are hearing this story, subscribe and share it. To understand 1953, you have to understand what Iran was sitting on. Oil. Oceans of it. Since 1913, the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a British corporation, had been extracting Iranian oil and splitting the profits in a way that was almost embarrassing. For every pound Iran received, Britain kept 5. Iranian workers lived in slums next to the refineries they operated. They had no access to the oil company's accounts, no say in how much they were paid, and no power to negotiate anything. Then Mosaddegh came along. He was 69 years old, often photographed in pajamas because he governed from his bed due to illness, and he was not remotely interested in being diplomatic about what he saw as theft. In 1951, as Prime Minister, he nationalized the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. He said simply that Iranian oil belongs to Iran. The Iranian parliament backed him. The Iranian people loved him. And Britain absolutely lost its mind. Britain immediately imposed a naval blockade and an economic embargo. They pulled out all their technical staff. They froze Iranian assets. They took the case to international courts. And they lost. Every legal challenge failed. The world largely sided with Iran. Even the United States under President Truman told Britain to calm down and negotiate. But then something changed. Dwight Eisenhower was elected president in 1952, and Britain came to Washington with a new argument. They stopped calling Mosaddegh a nationalist. They started calling him a communist. This was the Cold War. That word, communist, was enough to make any American president sit up straight. Britain told the CIA that if Mosaddegh stayed in power, Iran would fall to the Soviet Union. The evidence for this was thin, but the fear was enough. The CIA director, Allen Dulles, got the green light. His brother, John Foster Dulles, was Secretary of State. The plan was approved at the highest levels of the United States government. They called it Operation Ajax. The operation was run by a CIA officer named Kermit Roosevelt Jr., grandson of President Theodore Roosevelt. He flew into Tehran under a false identity with one mission: destroy Mosaddegh without firing a single official shot. Here's how they did it. They paid Iranian newspaper editors to run smear campaigns against Mosaddegh, calling him an enemy of Islam, a communist puppet, a traitor. They paid street gangs to stage riots and make the city look ungovernable. They bribed military officers. They hired thugs to attack religious leaders and blame it on Mossadegh's supporters, turning the clergy against him. The Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was in on it. He was weak, indecisive, and terrified of Mossadegh's popularity. He signed the orders to dismiss Mosaddegh, then immediately fled the country because he wasn't sure the plan would work. For a moment, it looked like it would not. The first coup attempt on August 15, 1953 failed completely. Mosaddegh got word of it. Soldiers loyal to him arrested the conspirators, and the Shah was sitting in Rome thinking his reign was over. The CIA was not done. 4 days later, on August 19th, they flooded the streets with paid protesters. They got military units to switch sides. They surrounded Mossadegh's home with tanks. After nearly 9 hours of fighting that left hundreds dead in the streets of Tehran, Mosaddegh surrendered. He was arrested in his own home, tried for treason, sentenced to 3 years in prison, and then placed under house arrest for the rest of his life, never allowed to leave his estate until he died in 1967. The Shah flew back from Rome. The CIA handed him his country. The Shah ruled Iran for the next 26 years as an authoritarian. His secret police, the Savak, trained by the CIA and Israel's Mossad, tortured and disappeared thousands of political opponents. America kept supporting him because he was their man. He bought American weapons. He sold oil at favorable rates. He was stable. But underneath that stability, a generation of Iranians was growing up with one lesson burned into their minds. America had stolen their democracy. In 1979, that generation exploded. The Islamic Revolution swept the Shah from power, and the first place the revolutionaries seized was not a palace or a military base. It was the American embassy. They called it the Den of Spies. And when they went through the CIA files they found inside, they discovered documents that confirmed what many Iranians had suspected for decades. The 1953 coup had been planned and funded by the United States government. The hostage crisis lasted 444 days. The relationship between America and Iran has never recovered. In 2013, exactly 60 years after the coup, the CIA formally acknowledged that Operation Ajax was a U.S. government operation. The documents were declassified. The admission was quiet, buried in a press release, easy to miss if you were not paying attention. Mosaddegh never got an apology. Iran never got its democracy back. And the next time you see a headline about Iran, about sanctions, about nuclear deals or military threats, or decades of mutual hostility, remember that all of it, every single piece of it, has a through line that runs straight back to one decision made in Washington in 1953. They overthrew a democracy to protect oil profits, and the world has been paying for that decision ever since.